Hi, I'm Greg.
And I'm Leanne. Welcome to the Empowered Poly Podcast,
where we give you the tools to help you feel more empowered
in your polyamorous and consensually non-monogamous relationships,
sharing what we've learned as relationship coaches and as individuals.
Empowered Poly is LGBTQ plus, alternative lifestyle, and kink friendly.
Thank you for joining us
and enjoy the show.
Hello, and welcome to episode 45 of the Empowered Poly Podcast. Today, we're going to talk about mononormativity. And we have a special guest with us, Marla Schreiber. Marla is a white, queer, gender-defiant, I love that, neurofabulous, also love that, relationship therapist. They've been practicing polyamory since 2005 and facilitating workshops and training on the subject in academic and professional settings since 2009. They've also written an amazing new book, which I was lucky enough to be able to read, on monogamy and defying a paradigm. So, welcome, Marla. Good to see you.
Yay!
Hello.
It's so
All
exciting
right.
to have you here, honestly. I've been watching you on TikTok and I love your stuff. I feel like I just watch and nod. That's what I do when I see you.
That's really kind.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm.
You know, what's funny is like, even just being on TikTok in particular, it's like I worked really hard to build up a following, which again, in the creator sphere is still fairly small beans, right? But like, you know, it's so wild that like if you take a minute off or you say something that the algorithm doesn't like, it's like it doesn't matter how many people follow you. It's like sometimes I have 300, 400 views on a video, and sometimes I forget that people actually do see the work that I create. So thank you so much.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, we definitely
Yeah, I
see
get
it.
it.
And that's one of the reasons why we reached out to you. I think there's a lot of alignment here. And if there isn't, like, let's talk about it. You
Yeah.
know, we're cool with that too. So,
Yeah,
yeah. So I have a question for you to start off with.
sure.
What was your journey through that pathway into non-monogamy?
Um, you know, what's funny is like I've been asked this question sort of on camera or on, you know, recording now so many times that I feel like everybody already knows and that I'm going to be boring, but I realize that that's actually not true.
Yeah, we don't know
so
it.
I was like, right, most people don't know. So, and I think also because it's in the book that I wrote, and so or like, you know what I mean? So I'm like, oh God, everybody's gonna be so bored. I'm happy to share. I'm gonna like, cause I'm a storyteller and I can go deep, and I'm gonna go like semi, we're not gonna go all the way down the iceberg, but
Okay.
I was first introduced to polyamory specifically it would have been probably 2004 when I would have been about 17. A friend of mine I'm from Montreal originally in Canada, Quebec, Canada. And they have in Quebec, we have a really interesting school system where we finish grade 11 is the end of high school. And then you get to do 2 or 3 years either in a pre-university or a professional, what they call a professional program in something that I forget the acronym in French. It's cégep, but in English it translates to, I guess, college, but it's pre-university. So I call that in my like heart of hearts, it's the fuck around and find out years. It's when like I reached legal drinking age, but the grades didn't count like they do in university. Like, because again, the legal drinking age is 18. So it's like we got to really fuck around with a lot less responsibility on our backs, which I'm thrilled about. Anyway, in that phase, the courses that we take, like the program was liberal arts, but you could take courses, that was what I did, but there are courses that you could take from all over the university. We had electives, or sorry, the college, you could take electives. It was very much like a university. And so one of my friends happened to take this class because, you know, you hear about classes that like, oh, take this one, the teacher's great, or it's super easy or whatever. There was this one class run by a prof who was just at the edge of retirement. Like anyway, he would walk into class, drop a topic, like a contentious topic, and literally sit back for, I don't know, it was 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever the class length was. He would just sit back and watch the class hash it out, essentially. It was, and I know this because I was so interested that I audited the class. Like I had already essentially graduated from my program, and I just went back and sat in on his class so that I could like debate and not have to write any assignments at the end. So But my friend was taking this class 2004, and one of the things this prof, who was again probably like 64, he would old hippie style, he would come in, and one of the things he talked about was polyamory and open relationships because he was in a long-term polyamorous, non-monogamous dynamic. Again, the language has changed so much since then and the way we talk about it, but he would explain what his life was like. He had 9 kids. Like he would tell the whole story to his class, and then people would just, right, like you're talking about a bunch of like 16, 17, 18 year olds, right? Just like, I mean, and yes, there were some folks who were older and coming back to school, but like it was like it was a lot of teenagers just being like rah and like fighting it out. But then he would share how much it made sense, right? The blueprint of being able to be polyamorous, when you read it, it's so logical. Oh, you can
Mhm.
love other people, right? We can be friends with other people, but why can't we sleep with other people? Or we can have, close relationships, but why can't they be intimate? And, he would really kind of ask all these questions. And so this friend of mine who was taking the class we would drive to school together every day, like we were together all the time. So she would come out of class so enamored by the ideology, so enamored by polyamory. And I was in this like hot and heavy, what lasted 2-month relationship with an absolute dillweed of a human. Um, but oh, my 17-year-old heart only had eyes for him. Oh my God. Like I feel ill
Mm.
thinking that now. Um, but my friend would tell me the logical stuff, and my brain was like, yeah, babe, like it makes sense. But she was also getting like weirdly like very she's I mean, I haven't spoken to her in years and years, but like very, very intelligent person. And once she latched onto an idea, she would get like super connected and attached to it, right? And so it was almost like evangelically, like being like, no monogamy, like we da da da, like so important, all of this stuff. And I remember saying, like, listen, everything you're saying makes sense. And right now, I'm so busy with all these eyes for this idiot that I'm dating that I'm not interested. I didn't say it like that, but that's what I was saying. Um, and then, so I knew about it. I had the gift of knowing it existed, right? Because part of mononormativity, or what we call compulsory monogamy, which is a close relative of mononormativity, right? Compulsory monogamy, for those who don't know, and I'm sure we'll talk more about mononormativity, but compulsory monogamy is essentially just not like only learning about monogamy as the option. So there are no other options presented. Therefore, I either would have to make up the options on my own, which,
Mhm.
many people do, right? Like one of my partners essentially she tells the story. I can't remember how old she was when she had 2 boyfriends, but she was, I don't know if it was elementary school, you know what I mean? But like
Mhm.
she figured it out on her own in a certain way. Whereas like I was lucky enough at 17 to have kind of this an elder sort of explain it and bring it forward as an idea. And so when I finally was no longer dating this person, and the way I found out, the way that we ended our relationship was he broke up with me out of nowhere. I was super confused. And then it took about 8 months for me to figure out that in fact he had been dating. I ended up on the phone with his girlfriend because I was so confused. I was like, why won't you just let me talk to him? Like, we're friends. I don't get it. And right 8 months after this breakup. And what she said to me on the phone is, we've been dating for a year. You do the math. And I did the math, and that positioned me as da 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 the other person.
Mm.
So he had a whole other relationship. I mean, he had a lot of time. He didn't have a job. He dropped out of school, etc. Got kicked out of his house while we were together. So like it made sense that he had time and space to be, managing 2 relationships full time.
Mhm.
But when I found that out, what happened to me is I didn't care that he would have been sleeping with someone else or even dating someone else. My immediate thought was, how dare you fucking make a fool out of me and deceive
Mm.
me? That was the part I was
Mhm.
like, there are a lot of things that I'm not good at, but like being sharp, being aware, having information, learning information, that's something that I think like that was one of the things I clung to as a young person, is like my own source of kind of intelligence or power in the world, right? When other kinds of power were not available. So this
Mhm.
feeling of being made out to be stupid and foolish, etc., was heartbreaking. But also, I was like, if he wanted to just like fuck other people or like have multiple relationships or even just have me more casually as a relationship, I was like, I would have been able to talk about that. We could have discussed it. But the fact that he cheated on me was the thing that just like really disturbed me and upset me. And I think
Hmm.
that was kind of what opened the door. And then, I mean, there's like a lot of stuff where my next relationship was with the person I'm now married to many years later. Like we've been together for over 20 years. But leading into a relationship where he didn't want monogamy, I didn't want monogamy, and I realized that like we could do this a different way. But it was
Mm.
being
Mhm.
cheated on in monogamy while knowing there were other options. All of that put together is what led me at early 18. Like it was like maybe 3 months into being 18 is when we embarked on our non-monogamy
Wow.
journey.
So you got that imprint early.
Yeah.
Good for
Yeah.
you. Good. And you had the language and the insight and the education.
Some of it. We
Right.
had, keep in mind, we had the like little bit of information that was given to us in one or two classes by one professor. So we had some of the info, but also even just looking at what non-monogamy looked like in a world like before I had the internet in my hand or in my
Yeah.
Yeah.
pocket, what
Yeah.
it looked
Hmm.
like when there was no social media. I think maybe the ethical slut was out at the time, but like what I was going to go to a library and go through the cards to like find a book about it. So like we had some language, but wow, did we have to do a lot of like again, fucking around and finding out, all puns
Yeah.
intended.
Yeah. For sure. And I think that's, yeah, I love that. I love the phrase that the fucking around
Hmm.
and find out, fucking around and finding out. But I think for me, like, what's coming up for me as I hear your journey is that there was a lot of sort of accidental, or sorry, to quote Bob Ross, happy accidents,
Yeah.
right? Right?
We're not so
And that's,
happy.
or not so
Yeah.
happy, right? But they turned out to be happy
Absolutely.
accidents.
Yeah. Yeah. Got
Hmm.
lucky.
Yeah, you
Thank you
did.
for sharing that. Yeah. And I started my poly journey in my 20s,
Yeah.
and that was 35 years ago, and there
Wow.
was not even an ethical slut published. So
Nothing.
yeah, there was nothing. We had 70s porn to go by. that was our that was
Excellent
our
mustaches.
model for
Lot, lots
non-monogamy.
of lots of hair.
I was
Yeah.
just saying, great mustaches.
Yeah. Well, that wasn't what I was referring to, but yeah,
Yeah.
I know
absolutely.
what you're referring to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of hair. Yeah. Made an imprint. Anyway, okay. Um, yeah. One of the questions that I had for you actually specifically is about TikTok. And I was watching a TikTok of yours, and you had said, and I don't want to get into the whole TikTok, but there was a part that I found really interesting. You had said that you wanted to stop talking about hierarchy.
Uh, yeah.
So
And so
can
now we're
you
going to
do you
invite you to talk about
yeah,
hierarchy.
I'm going to
But you
invite
have
you to talk about I'm going to invite you to talk about why you want to
Why?
stop talking about hierarchy,
Yeah.
not
I'm
hierarchy specifically.
I'm here for it.
Okay.
Thank you. And remember when I was telling you as we were getting ready to have a conversation that sometimes I might get passionate and rant? You may have
Yeah.
pressed the button, my friend.
Okay. So I got my fishing pole out and I'll reel you in if I need to.
Much respect and I invite that if needed. So okay. We can't not talk about hierarchy without saying hierarchy. So obviously we have to point to the thing I don't want to talk about anymore. And here is what I have seen. I came into, so you're saying like TikTok. So I started Polyam Marla is my handle on TikTok. And I I gotten on in 2020 when everyone was like, Marla, I think you'd be good at this. I'm such a technophobe that I was like, nope, I don't want something new. I don't want to do something new. I don't want to, and it's so easy. It's so easy, but I didn't want to do it. I was so averse. And so I only really got on, I think it was the end of 2022 when I finally got onto TikTok. Okay. I'd been on Instagram making content. I think I'd already started Polly and Marla on Instagram, but I had, it was small and it was growing in a pretty small way. And when I got to TikTok and I started really engaging in that space, I started to see more and more content creators who were talking about non-monogamy. Like I was kind of catching up on like several years of missed content and like what's been going on in community there because I wasn't really a part of it. Like 2020 hit, we all know what happened, right? Like the rise of like wild activism. We know there was a pandemic and I moved out of like many people. I was living in Toronto, which is a very densely populated city. And, somewhere between having panic attacks washing my groceries and my partner that I lived with having panic attacks at the grocery store, I was like, I'm out of here. Like, I'm done. So I made myself even further away from physical community. And I was like, okay, let's see what's going on in this like world that I'm terrified of. And what I started noticing more and more, and I'd seen it before, like it wasn't new that there was a conversation, an important conversation, I thought originally, about hierarchy that was happening in non monogamy. And what I'd understood it to be, this is before 2020, I'd seen it more in like Facebook groups and like Reddit threads, right? Where people were talking about not ranking our partners, which I hadn't done in years. And the truth is, in 2004, 5, like the language of primary, secondary, I don't know who says tertiary, but it's a word, but like
Mhm.
that language was what was available to us, right?
Right.
And there was a period of time where I literally said that I had two primary partners. That's what we called ourselves, right? In our conversation, because that's just what was available at the time. And then when I started seeing people being like, this like ranking our partnership is not making sense, I was like, I'm on board for that. Because I hadn't used that language in years. But like the internet, and again, this is pre TikTok, but like, it was from giving workshops and being online a little bit that I learned language like anchor partner. I'd never heard that before, right? Where I learned, and it was all new language, right? The communities that have been built as a result of access to more information using the internet in many ways has been incredibly powerful in moving forward our communities and developing like different norms and changing things and adding in new perspectives like intersectional analysis. Let's talk about how racism impacts our communities, all of this stuff, right?
Mhm.
Heterosexism, like all the things, misogyny. So hierarchy. So at first I was like, hierarchy, yeah, let's unpack hierarchy. And then I got online and I was like, oh, there's like some people just like standing on their soapbox, making really strong claims about hierarchy being unethical in a sweeping way. Like judgmental, very like standing looking down at people, ironically, hierarchically looking down at people. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I was seeing, and there were some people who were just casually saying it. I was seeing it in the comment section, but there were some people who had really big followings making very, very unnuanced, sweeping statements about hierarchy. Now, quick side note, I promise I'll come back. My position is as fundamentally, I'm a therapist. I'm an educator, I'm a therapist, right? I've been doing this for a long time. I'm a facilitator. I used to teach sex ed in high schools. Having a non-judgmental, harm reductive approach to things is a huge part of where I come from. And
Mhm.
so seeing people saying this is ethical, this is unethical, which then even sparked, I never said ethical non monogamy. Never
Mhm.
once. Because for me, the challenge with the language of ethical, and this is no shade, ENM, I use the hashtag all the time. It really rolls off the tongue, ENM. Like I'm not, and this is the thing, I'm not here to judge anyone who uses that. There's nothing wrong with you if you say ethical non monogamy. I just didn't like it because I'm super like word specific. And for me, the thing with ethical non monogamy is I was like, according, again, remember I mentioned I studied liberal arts, according to whose ethics, right?
Right.
It's
Right.
like
Exactly.
there's a whole
Yeah.
philosophical uh not practice, there's a philosophy of ethics. There's a word that I want to use that I can't find, a philosophical like study of what
Yeah.
ethics means, and it is fundamentally the study of what is right and what is wrong. People have been talking
Right.
about this for literally like hundreds if not thousands of years, right?
Yeah. Ethics are subjective. What's
Yes.
ethical to me may not be ethical to you. That's why I've taken umbrage with the term as well. It's like
Yeah.
it just doesn't work for me, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I
Mhm.
get it.
And so I was just seeing this idea of people saying this is unethical, this is ethical, and I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, and this is before I understood how the internet works, that if you want views and you want likes and you want people to comment in your comment section and you want to grow your account in a certain kind of way, sure, get people upset, get people to respond, get people like, with their whole chest
Mhm.
coming into your comment section. I get it now. I did not then.
Uh-huh.
And so I was watching this and I was like, this does not feel good. This does not feel good. So, one of my like early 2023 was the first time where I literally made my first video about hierarchy. This is before I swore it off, by the way. I made a video about hierarchy, and I was just like, I literally opened up super, like, if I could find it, I'm somewhere in the, you know, like backlog of my videos. But I literally started the video like this. I was like, hierarchy and non-monogamy? Because I was so like, felt like I was poking the bear, but I was also, I was just like, why are we not having more of a conversation about this? Because
Right.
my thing is like, I know you judge people, and that first video taught me the word sneakyarchy. Again, I love community. So sneakyarchy is what happens, right? When
Hmm.
people hear hierarchy bad and then they come to non-monogamy and they're like, "Oh, hierarchy bad. Me no hierarchy." Sorry, I don't know why everyone's a cave person, but it's but this idea like, "Oh, I don't want to be bad. Therefore, of course, I won't do hierarchy." Everything we've always known is hierarchical. Most of
Right.
us, right?
Right.
So many of us have learned, and like, again, this leads, I guess, into the book eventually, but like, so many of
Right.
us have learned so much about hierarchy as the way we practice relationships that it's very nice that I can say, I'm not going to do hierarchy. Oh, we're totally egalitarian. We're totally equal. But then you peek under the surface and like, what's happening? Sneakyarchy. It's
Right.
sneaky hierarchy. And I
Right.
don't even think that it is done most of the time maliciously. I think it's
No.
done from a place of not wanting to be bad at non-monogamy, to be bad at polyamory. And
Well, I think
yeah, please.
I think too, it's also done from a place of not wanting to hurt people,
Yeah.
right? It's not being bad at polyamory, but it's also from a place of not wanting to hurt people and trying to please everybody all the time,
Mm-hmm.
right? That was my experience anyway. Was, like, and then once you bring awareness to the concept of, wait a minute, it's okay to have priorities.
Yeah.
It's okay to prioritize things and people in certain situations.
Yeah.
What's not okay is to pretend like you don't need to do that, but then you end up doing it, which is what sneakyarchy is about.
Absolutely. And what's even fascinating is that you're bringing up priority. And if you really, and this is on the journey to why I don't want to talk about hierarchy anymore. If you actually look at hierarchy, hierarchy is not actually about priority. You can have hierarchy or non-hierarchy and still have priorities.
Right.
So
Yes.
what I did, and this is now over many years, okay? So I would take a break away from it and then something would happen and I would come back to it, or something would happen in my practice where oh my gosh, where somebody would be like, you need to get a divorce with your partner and we need to all move in together because we're going to be egalitarian. What? Sorry? Like what? I'm sorry. Like what? Is that how this?
Mhm.
I don't know that and like people would come to me distraught, or someone coming into a relationship, pardon me, or coming to me after being in a relationship where they were told, sorry, yeah, where they were told that it's totally egalitarian, everyone's treated equally, but then, oh, I can't go on vacation with this person, or it's the holidays and I'm not allowed to spend time with
Oh,
them because they have to be with their other partner. And so again, these people being
mm.
like, oh, I was told this one thing, but now I'm getting tossed aside or feeling deprioritized. And that's little things would happen to me in my life where I'd be like, all
Yeah.
right, we're coming back to the internet to chat some more with the community.
Right.
And
Right.
so what I looked up that was super important for me is like, what are we even fucking talking about when we talk about hierarchy? It is this buzzword. Now I'm getting to my answer. Thank you for your patience. It's
Sure.
this buzzword where people are just throwing around like hierarchical, egalitarian, babada, non-hierarchical, meh, meh, meh. I was like, girl like gay girl, not like anyone's gender. But I would like, I went to the internet and I was just like, Google, define hierarchy. What we're talking about when we define hierarchy, according to the Google, is we're looking at a sort of relationships that are rooted in status, authority, and rank. Now, where it starts to get tricky for me is I'm like, okay, I'm legally married to one of my partners. Boom, status. We also legally have authority. Now, the older I get, the more I do this polyamory thing, the more I lean toward relationship anarchy, which is a more non hierarchical approach to being in relationships. But for me to say, like, I live, like, I don't have a primaries or secondaries. I have not in years. I have another partner of over 8 years, and, like, she's just as important in a very different way, right?
Right.
However, I would be lying. I would be lying to myself and to the world if I pretended that being legally married to one of my partners did not create a certain kind of hierarchy.
Mhm.
Right. And you actually talk about that in the book under couples privilege. You
Thank you so
discuss
much.
yeah, sure. You discuss the idea that couples privilege exists, right?
Hmm.
And then to try to ignore it or try to say it doesn't exist in a relationship is frankly it's idiotic. And it's and I don't mean idiotic in terms of like it's stupid. I mean it's like it's unknowledgeable. You've got to do it in a different way, right? So acknowledging the couple's privilege and saying this is how our couple's privilege affects us, and by
Yeah.
extension how it could potentially affect you, right? I
Hmm.
think that's really important, and that goes along with the hierarchy bit too, right?
Hmm. And, like, I think for me, I would say more than idiotic, the word I would use is problematic, like highly
Problematic, yes.
problematic,
Yeah.
because
Yeah, thank you.
I think for me the thing is, and this is where I've eaten shit for this, but I'm like, I have compassion for where people are coming from.
Yeah.
How many people, just like hierarchy, I haven't even finished, but I'll get there. We're almost there. But, like, but the thing is, how many people hear the word hierarchy, seize up, and then they can't have the conversation anymore because they go to a shame place?
Yeah.
How many
Mhm.
people hear the word privilege and are like, oh, no, 10-foot pole, I'm
Oh
not
yeah.
touching that thing. Right. And that's
Yeah.
why in the book, and I know this because I've been reading through it recently because I'm doing a book launch. And so I was reading through it to, like, choose parts I'm gonna read. And so I'm very familiar right now with some of the parts. And so the thing is, it's this idea, right, that, like, we hear privilege and it's like, oh my God, privilege equals bad. I am bad. I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Let's reframe. Let's think about what it means to have privilege, right? Like, I have so many kinds of privilege. I'm not saying that to, like, have like a pissing contest, like, look at my privilege, but it's to say,
Yeah.
like, unacknowledged privilege is how we do harm
Right.
Mhm.
unintentionally.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. I like to say that I'm the most privileged human being on the planet for three reasons. One, I'm white. Two, I'm male. And three, I had the privilege of being born in North America. So those three things alone make me the most privileged human being on the planet, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's just acknowledging that. It's just saying that this is my privilege. These things are, amongst many other things, are my privilege.
Yeah.
And when I have those conversations with people, especially other white dudes, they get really upset.
Yeah.
They're like, well, I grew up in, poor poverty, and I grew up in this, and I had it
Of
hard, and
course.
I had it rough. And of course you did. Absolutely. But you're still the most privileged human being in the planet because of those three things.
Yeah. It's interesting because I think that's what happens, and that's why I love sort of the intersectionality framework, right? Like, as
Mhm.
originally introduced by Kimberly Crenshaw, talking about, it was really with the specifics of, like, blackness and, like, different types, right? And, like, when I think back, even when BLM was, like, after the murder of George Floyd and then so many other people, right? And many
Mhm.
before, but when that was happening, I remember having a really serious. I made a video, and this is before Polly and Marla existed. I started a YouTube channel. I made like 3 or 4 videos, and then I got tired. Um, but all to say that I made one video with no followers that at the time had over 500 likes, which with no followers on YouTube is kind of something. And it was called The Myth of the Good White Person. And it was
Mm,
this idea that we're so wrapped up in this idea that we are good, that whiteness gets connected to goodness, that when
Mhm.
someone tells us that, hey, like you have this privilege, or, like, you're wielding power in an unhealthy way or in a toxic way, what happens is, I'm not, like, I can't be racist. I'm a good person, right?
Mhm.
mm,
If being a good person is the number one thing I'm chasing, then what ends up happening is I go to a shame place the minute that someone says I'm racist. Now, do I want to be racist? You bet I don't. Am I invested in anti-racist practice and deconstructing my privilege, including like white supremacy? You bet, right?
right.
But I remember talking to someone around that time and saying, like, talking about our white privilege, and then also talking about cisgender privilege. This person got so upset. And again, this is many years ago, and I'm sure they've done a lot of unpacking since, but got so upset that as a woman, the ways that she has experienced oppression in her life, she was so upset by the idea that she could have privilege because of the ways she had not had privilege. And then we start talking about, the oppression Olympics. And like, that's
Yeah.
not what I'm here for. This isn't I'm more privileged, I'm less privileged. We are all always both privileged and marginalized at the same time on different axes. So this
Mhm.
person who grew up in poverty, right? Sure, from a socioeconomic standing, they don't have as much privilege. They were marginalized. And it's not about, we're not one thing. I'm not one kind of good. I'm
Right.
good and bad, which I, again, ethics, meh. But like, it's not just one thing. We are this intersection of different parts of ourselves.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I'm gonna finish answering your question because I'm committed to it.
All right.
Status, authority, rank. When we talk about hierarchy,
Yeah.
I realized that there were people talking about how egalitarian polyamory is the only way to do it. And then I was reading or watching their posts saying things like, you can be egalitarian and married. That was the thing that set me the fuck off. I was like, that's it. That's it. This is not true. This is just not true. And the problem with egalitarian, even, a lot of people see that without understanding. I have nothing wrong with like go do egalitarian polyamory, but a lot of people think egal, equal,
Yeah.
identical, equal everything. That can be just as toxic. Like I was telling you, you need to get
Mhm.
divorced, you need to separate, we all need to live together. If you go on a date one day, we go on a date the next day, tit for tat thinking, that can be just as toxic hierarchy, right? It's
Mhm.
like you go so far to one direction and so far to the other direction, and what ends up happening is they wrap around and meet at the middle, which is just toxic.
Yeah.
Right.
So that is where I was like, no, I'm done. We are using language in a way that is harming our communities. New
Right.
people are coming in, polyamory, non-monogamy, relationship anarchy, swinging, it's growing. People are getting more and more interested in it, right? People are making TV shows about, I mean, again, you read my book, I talk about all this shit and how that can be harmful. But what I'm getting at is my allegiance as an educator, now an author, as a therapist, is to support my communities to move towards something that looks like healthy relationships, where there is
Mhm.
consent, where there is open communication, where there is respect, etc. I was
Mhm.
like, this is actually detracting from the health of our communities. So instead of
Right.
talking about hierarchy, let's talk about couples privilege.
Right.
Let's talk about different types
Mhm.
of relationship styles that we may or may not want to be in. Let's teach people how to have clear, open, loving, empathetic conversations. Let's teach people how to remove some of the shame and the guilt. Let's teach people critical thinking. That's what I want to do instead of talking about what I am now officially for the rest of our time together going to call the H word.
There we go.
Wow,
There we go.
Marla. Oh
We
my
shall we
gosh,
we
that's
shall not
amazing.
mention the H word. Yeah, no, I
Amazing.
agree. I think for me it's curiosity, right? If you can approach these things with a sense of curiosity as opposed to a sense of right and wrong, right?
Yeah.
You know? Like I always say that, if your intent to have a conversation is to be right, then shut the fuck up because nobody cares,
Mhm.
right? But if your intention is to understand, then continue, but continue with curiosity and compassion, right?
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Also, that from that space that you're talking about, that curiosity and compassion gives us the space to have disagreements, to
Hmm.
grow, to
Yeah.
learn. Someone came in my comments the other day and like left a comment that was asking a question. Like when people leave a shitty comment, I'm going to give you a shitty answer or no answer. But like I've created some very fun videos for my trolleys.
Yeah,
But
yeah, you have.
when when somebody comes in and they're like, hey, like, I don't want to disagree with you and like no harm intended here, but question, question, question. I'm like, ask me the questions, hold me to task. I've had
Yeah.
people, I've had to take posts down and make accountability, commentary. I've had to go and do research about something I was wrong about,
Mhm.
right? Like, let's grow together. Let's have that inquisitive nature together. Let's have like respectful debate, right? Because
Right.
that's the problem, is when we lose that curiosity or that interest in understanding one another without these big words that are just at this point dividing us and triggering each other, let's be honest, right?
Mhm.
But it's like, that's how we grow. That's how we do better.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a huge opportunity that gets missed when we're using language that's problematic repeatedly, right?
Yeah.
That connection piece just doesn't happen. And the gatekeeping around that language can be
Yeah.
really harsh and push people out of community that need that information and that guidance and that connection to
Yeah.
learn more,
Yeah.
right?
And
Yeah.
like, people just like canceling each other left, right, and center.
Yeah.
Like, have you ever seen a Reddit thread in the world of non-monogamy? It is scary. I don't do a lot of it,
I
but
don't
like,
do a lot of it either because I don't like the
but when
tone.
I've peeked in, I've just been like, hot potato, not my circus. Like, I have to just get out of there because I'm like, these people, because I could go in and be like, whoa, hold on, everybody. And I'm like, I am not the referee of the internet. Thank you so much. No.
No.
But
No. Yeah.
it's created a culture where we're just like attacking each other. And this is like, I mean, I'm not going to go too deep into this, but it's like, this is the problem of small communities, of leftist communities, of people who are challenging the status quo. We're doing something different, but we're carrying these old paradigms with us into the
Right.
way we're punitive, like the old systems. We're
Mhm.
combative. We're like, again, you want to talk about hierarchy, we're competitive. We're
Right.
trying to like I'm just like, hey, can we just like raise each other up? Can we just like build a village together? And that's not me being like toxic positivity. Like again, it's a very like pacifist, like white perspective to be like, oh, but kids, can't we all get along? Like, I'm not Karening this.
Yeah.
Like, I'll show up and fight for injustice when I see injustice, right? But
Yeah.
it's like, hold on, are we saying that this is an injustice when we just haven't been given the opportunity to understand? Like, that's
Mhm.
ick. We
Right.
have
And you,
bigger fish to fight.
yeah, and
Mhm. Mhm.
you were talking to circle back to the concept of mononormativity, right? And monogamy being the default, right?
Yeah.
Being the only way,
Yeah.
right? If you apply these principles of curiosity and compassion to that process, then you start to unravel certain things, and then you can decide whether or not you're consciously invested in monogamy,
Yeah.
right? And I don't have any problem with that. I think that's great. I think if you're consciously invested in monogamy and that's the
Mhm.
way that you want to relate to people and that's the healthiest way for you, that's fantastic. But just know that by experiencing alternatives or at least being open to alternatives, you can then have a better sense of reassurance that you're actually healthy, relating in a healthy way.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
A lot of the
I
time, when we're working with people, they're in that first polyamorous or non-monogamous relationship experience, and they're shaken, their beliefs are being questioned and challenged, and they're looking for help and support. And sometimes the support that we offer is actually helping them understand that monogamy is actually where they align best, you know?
absolutely.
And that's one of the things I think that sometimes in the community can feel unaccessible,
Yeah.
right? It's just it's like I want to fix myself so I can fit into my new relationship
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
And that's from, people who are deeply monogamous trying to, change their own value system essentially in order
Yeah.
to accommodate. And that's not healthy relating. So our whole thing, our whole jam is about authenticity and healthy relationships.
That
Yeah.
like I've said this so many times, like, I am not pro non-monogamy.
Mhm.
I am pro healthy relationships. If the
Mhm.
Right.
healthiest relationship is monogamy, choose it with care and intention, and that's what I'm
Yes.
here for. You know, it's so interesting. I have a sibling who's like amazing, and like poor thing grew up with me, right? Like, so imagine she's 2 years younger than me. I was definitely the older sibling who was just like my sister, she's just like so good. I have an amazing sibling. Like, and I say good in like the most like deep depth of her soul, just kind, wonderful human. All the traits that I wish I had, like she has. You know what I mean? Or like that would make me a better person. She's got them going on. And so the thing is, she grew up with me practicing non-monogamy, dating all the people. Like, I mean, I remember the first time. Anyway, it's just like all the kind of countercultural things that she witnessed and didn't judge, you know, and she just like turned out to be very cishet monogamous, you know,
Mhm.
and she knows and she supports. I mean, she's been a huge part of my life, and like, you know, knows my partners and all these things and holds space, and like she just, that's just not what's right for her, and I'm like, that's fine. And I didn't make her read books and do it like I wasn't like oppressively like, you need to know what your decision, like that was not it. I'm not that person, just a sibling, you know. But it's one of those things that like she was exposed to it and still chose what was right for her. And that's my thing, is like, it's like people, you know, having this idea that I need to work on a relationship. Like, if I'm not, like, maybe a relationship is really not working for someone. This is not about monogamy or
Mhm.
non-monogamy, but someone's in a relationship that is bad for them. But they have this idea that in order to really show that I'm like, I need to keep trying in order to show that I'm good at being in
Right.
a relationship, or to
Right.
give it
Yeah.
my all, right? And so people will stay in a really unhealthy situation for so much longer because they feel like they being in a relationship means fighting for the relationship.
Right.
And so it's the same thing that you're describing, right? It's this idea of people fighting to be non-monogamous, when at the
Mhm.
end
Mhm.
of the day, like, it's just possible that that's not actually what's best for you, and that's the most okay.
Right. I
Yeah.
like to say that's a really good point because I like to say to my clients that even though I call myself a relationship coach, I'm not here to save your relationship. That's not my job. My job is to empower you to make decisions that are the best for you within that relationship. And if you end up deciding that that relationship is not for you, then I support that 100%.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
you need to be able to make sure that that's done with intention and awareness and mindfulness and being conscious about those decisions. Because right now it sounds to me like you're in this default mode of sunk cost fallacy, where
Mm.
I've invested so much time and so much energy into this relationship that I just need to continue to just power through it until it gets better again.
Yeah.
But it might not be better because it might not be what's best for you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I do say something very similar, especially when I work with couples, or of, you know, like triads or whatever it is, right? Like
Yeah.
pods. But
Hmm.
when I work with groups, but most frequently it's couples, but I used to believe, when I started practicing therapy, I thought that my job doing couples work, or more than one work, was to help the couple stay together. And
Yeah,
I
me too.
learned very quickly that actually my job is to support people in moving toward what is actually the healthiest for them.
Right.
Mhm.
And I tell people that, right? Like, I just want you to know, like, off the hop, that like, I can't, my job, my allegiance is to both of you, or all three of you, or whatever, as a whatever formation they're in. But at the end of the day, my allegiance is to all of you in this formation, even if it means that that formation needs to change.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
So
100%.
mononormativity, let's come back to that and dive in a little bit for our listeners or our viewers that have no idea what that means.
Yeah.
We've talked a little bit about it already, but maybe we can just kind of give a definition of what that looks like and how
Yeah.
it might show up.
Absolutely. So anytime we talk about normativity, right? So like, you may have heard things like heteronormativity. Right now we're talking about mononormativity. We're talking about taking something as the status quo. That's what a paradigm is about, right? So all of these are paradigms. So heteronormativity, for example, is the assumption and expectation that heterosexual relationships are the most normal, and that when you see people walking down the street, if there is, you know, a femme presenting and a masc presenting person, that there's just the assumption that they would probably be dating, and that they are a couple, right? Because that's, we just assume people to be hetero, right? So
Mhm.
you see that play back, like, oh, I'm dating someone new. Oh, what's his name, right? If I'm, let's say I'm a woman, which I'm like presented as one, but not quite. Anyway, all
Mhm.
to say that, so when we talk about mononormativity, we are looking at the paradigm of monogamy as the expected, the most natural, the most normal, the most ethical way of being in relationships. And so you don't have to do work for this. It's, we exist in this. So it's
Yeah.
really this feeling, it's hey, you bring a plus one to the wedding, right?
Hmm.
The automatic assumption that you have a partner, right? I think I mentioned this in the book also. There's that's a doctor once asked me, like, what gender is your partner? And I just like
Yeah.
Mhm.
laughed. I was like, which one?
Which one?
Because and I was like, it was a whole, that was a weird scenario where I was like, I think she thought she was being like kind of progressive in trying to like, I think like if you know, you know, like I don't look straight.
Yeah.
It's like that's okay. But I
Yeah,
was just like,
you got the international badge of non-straighthtness with the shaved
yeah,
head bit.
yeah.
Yeah.
I like when people don't know, they're just like, "Oh, you're so artsy." I'm like, as I paint with all the brushes. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I guess that like, so that's when we're talking about mononormativity. It's like freaking like the number of TV shows where I just like yelled at the TV where I'm like,
Mm.
just date all of you. Like nobody
Right.
has to choose here. Like I feel like everyone gets along. They just sort it out. Like anyway, so that is mononormativity though, just that assumption that it is the only way and the most ethical way of being in partnership.
Right.
Mhm.
And I think further to that too, one of the things that comes into play with polyamory, or non-monogamy, is that this idea that once you're exploring non-monogamy, there's a concept that non-monogamy somehow becomes a more enlightened way of relating. And
Hmm.
I think that's such bullshit. I
Oh yeah.
really do. And I was guilty of that for a while when I first discovered it.
Yeah.
When I first discovered the language and the community of it, I was guilty of
Yeah.
it. But it's like, oh, look at me, I'm more enlightened and I can relate to multiple people and I can, blah blah blah. But it's not. So
Yeah.
that's not really what we're talking about here. We're not
No.
saying that one way is better than the other way, right? We're
No.
just simply
The
saying that
most
one
no.
way is more prevalent
Yeah.
and more accepted than the other way.
Yeah. But
Oh,
and
yeah. We are literally steeped in the mono culture
yeah.
from the first books that we are exposed to even.
Yeah.
And additionally heteronormativity, but the monoculture is part of that. Every fairy tale film, even cartoons, they're getting better, but there's some that have kind of cracked that
Yeah.
wide open a little bit, and that's great. Appreciate that, but it's hard to come by non mononormative material for
Hmm.
for kids, young people, even for adults,
Yeah.
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 And I
It's
think
still
there's
very
more and
niche.
more of it
Yeah.
now, but it's also it's niche and you need to find it, right? Like
Yeah.
it
Oh,
exists. Like the beauty is like we can do a Google search now. Like
yeah.
there you can find a Polyam Marla or so many other people or like the millions, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
like there are so many people out there talking about this for sure, but you have to look for it if you're not looking for it, right? And then it's also there's groupthink about like, oh, what it means, right? Like there's stigma. It's not just casually like, oh, some people are doing this. Some people are doing this and they're also eating shit for it. They
Right.
are
Yeah.
they are having like, how many people feel like they can't come out to family and to friends, things
Hmm.
about like, oh, what am I going to do about insurance at work, or like how am I going to deal with the
Hmm.
like legal situation, people wanting to marry or like live together in groups of
Yeah.
more than two.
We actually, I say we, but actually, Leanne, you actually had clients that had to change their marital status in order for the male in the triad to keep his job.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
Wow.
crazy. That's
Yeah.
crazy. I mean, I don't want to get into too many details, but that's
Yeah.
crazy, right?
Yeah.
Like, why? Why does it matter to your employment whether or not you're in a relationship with one, two, 12, or 15 people? Who fucking
Well, and
cares?
we're in that situation, right? Globally, where we're looking at a much more a huge pendulum swing towards the fundamentalist.
Yeah.
And so I think there's that. And then additionally, his job was in the military. So that's
Yeah.
part of their protocol, I guess, is that you cannot you can be court-martialed for being adulterous if you're
Wow.
married and have another partner.
Wow. I
Yeah.
didn't,
Yeah, so that's why he had to do it. What he did, he
Wild.
essentially had to divorce his wife. So now they're all legally single.
Mhm, mhm.
Wild.
And now
Yeah.
they're fine, right? He's
And now they're
fine.
fine. Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
fine, but also they lose certain privileges when
Right.
we're, because, and again, I go into this in the book, right? But like part of being legally married, which is a huge part of
Mhm.
mononormative culture, right? Is like, and couples privilege, which is part of mononormative culture. There are these privileges that exist
Mhm.
when we are legally married. And so the thing is that there's something to be said about like, oh, now they're all fine, but also what happens to like the reason I can tell you, one of the number one reasons that I am legally married is that one of my best friends growing up when I was in my early 20s, unfortunately, she lost, her mother passed away.
Mm.
And her mother and father were still on very good speaking terms, but they were legally divorced. So her father was very present in the hospital while her mom was unwell, all these things, right? When her mom passed, and again, this is different places have different legal, meow meow, but where we were in Quebec at the time, when her mother passed, because there was no legal spouse, any transfer of wealth that was an inheritance for her was taxable by the government.
Mhm.
The government took, I don't remember the percentage, but it was a huge amount of whatever her mother had left to her. She was an only child. Had her mother and father been legally married, it would have just completely transferred over with no tax taken off.
Whoa.
So,
What? Oh
yeah.
my
So
God.
when I learned that, and I was there for this friend, she was a couple of years younger than me, and I was very involved in her life when this was all happening. I said, and I was already with the partner that I'm now married to. I mean, we waited till our 15th anniversary to get married. We didn't jump into anything. But what happened though is I think at this point we'd been together for we'd been friends for many years, but then together maybe for 3, 4 years or something. And I remember saying to him, I was like, listen, we had never really cared about marriage in general. Like again, we were teenagers, who cares? But I mean, many care. Sorry, that's not true. Many teenagers care about marriage. That I'm not taking that away from them. But we didn't care. We were just like, ridiculous, silly kids. But when that happened and I saw that, I said, listen, I don't care when we do it. I don't care where we do it. I don't care if we just like go to a courthouse and just have it legally done. This is again before I was unpacking couples privilege or any of that shit, right? And again, this is part of it, but I was like, if something happened to me, because her father also didn't have any say in terms of her mother's body. So she was like, imagine being a teenager having to make these decisions for your mother. And I was like, I want to know that one day if something happens to me, that like you are an integral and incorporated part of my life. And that
Mm.
was actually the
Mhm.
reason I chose. I kind of said to him, I'm like, take your time. I was like, I don't care about all the like bells, whistles, and bullshit, but I was like, I need you to know that I need this because I've now seen what happens if we don't have it.
There's an
Mhm.
element of security that comes with that, right?
Yeah,
There's an element of comfort that comes with that
that these
because
people who got
of
divorced lost.
mononormativity
Exactly.
Mhm.
And the
and the couple privilege
privilege.
that's inherent in marriage.
Exactly. Exactly.
See how
And the
we bring that
hierarchy.
around in hierarchy, right?
I
Yeah.
didn't go deep into hierarchy in the book. I was
Well,
like
you
reading.
said you're saying hierarchy, not the H word. Just
I'm
saying.
sorry. Yeah, you're correct. Called
I'm just
called
kidding.
in called out. Yeah. But the
Yeah,
thing is,
yeah.
I didn't talk about it a lot in the book. And it was interesting when I went back to the book. And I was glad that I didn't, but I was like, it's so again, that's why I didn't call the book that it was suggested that I call it non-monogamy and mononormativity. And I was like, first of all, that sounds terrible. But second of all, I was like, no, this isn't just about mononormativity. This is about paradigms and what does it mean
Right.
to unpack paradigms and to be invested in that. And so that's why, because it's all connected. It's like a yarn ball.
I have a
Mhm.
question. I have a
Yeah.
question that just came up. So, I know what the word paradigm means to me. I'm
Yeah.
curious to know what it means to you.
Yes. So, as we've talked about a little bit, it's the status quo. It's what we know to be real. It's what is, right? So, mononormativity is a paradigm, just like heteronormativity, I was saying, is a paradigm. It's just, we don't have to think about it. It's like being, you said we're all steeped in it. I
Mm.
liken it to being steeped in the tea of it. It's
Yeah.
like if we're all steeped, I read this in my own book yesterday, but it's like, if we're all steeped in peppermint tea, we
Yeah.
don't smell the peppermint. We're not
Right.
aware. And also we just assume, right? We're all steeped in this tea. We just assume that everybody is in peppermint tea. There's no question about like, oh, wait, what if someone else is, what did I say about like the steeped in nettle, or whatever.
Mhm.
It's like that we don't even think about it because we're just so inherently, it's what we know to be how it is, it being
Right,
any.
right, right,
Mhm.
right. So a paradigm essentially is a belief. It's
It's
It's a bigger structure that
yeah,
exists throughout
it's
a societal support system, I would say, too.
Yeah, because it's again, are we talking about like I can have a personal paradigm where I have two house panthers, I have two cats, right? So I have a paradigm in my own experience of like I am always watching out which doors are open or closed, right? That's part of my own personal experiential paradigm, right? Things that I think about, things that I do without thinking about them, right? That's part of my personal experience. Whereas broader social paradigms like mononormativity are much more embedded in the fabric of our society. And that's where we
Mm.
Mhm.
see people having certain privileges based on those things or not.
Right.
And where we see that there's a hive mind about it. So it's like there's when it's a social paradigm, you see it from like from the highest, like most macro level, like laws and rules in society. And then, and then you see it in film and TV and songs and all these different things. But then it also comes back down to the individual micro level where we see it play out in people's beliefs and ideas about what is reality.
Hmm. Yeah. Speaking of songs, so many songs have been fucking ruined for me since I started this journey because like it's just so like it's just everywhere. It's so prevalent. It's like just take them both, man. Just you don't need to make the choice, dude. You don't, and then there's the whole "I need you, I'm nothing without you" concepts and all of that stuff. The longing and the romanticism that's inherent in codependency and then yeah.
Mm.
Anyway, I could go on. Anyway, so I'm curious, what was the impetus for writing the book?
Um, the book itself, I mean, the kind of cute, fast answer is I gave a workshop about mononormativity at a conference, and I just happened to end up chatting with the right person who was like, "Do you want to write a book? Because I am a publisher and I'm one of the authors of the book More Than Two. And we have a more than two, like these mini books, right? Like it happens to be right here because I've been reading it, but it's like these mini books that are kind of like accompaniments to the More Than Two. They're called the like essentials guides. So different authors have been given these opportunities. So like, I was like, okay. But because I gave the workshop about mononormativity is why I was offered the opportunity to talk about it here. The reason I talked about mononormativity and wanted to do the workshop about it at the time is that when I think, and I actually made some video content about this recently, which is that what do I see as one of the biggest challenges non-monogamous people face when trying to practice their relationships? And it doesn't matter if you're thinking about non-monogamy, if you're 20 plus years deep into non-monogamy or like 30 plus, like it doesn't matter how long
Mhm.
you've been doing it. I was like, mononormativity, the paradigm of monogamy, I was like, it fundamentally creates so many challenges for us to overcome. And so the reason I wanted to talk about it is that I was like, we need to think about like not just mononormativity, but also like what are the paradigms that impact us as we try to practice these different kinds of relationships that are going against like rubbing the fur of the paradigm backwards. We're
Mm.
literally stepping outside of paradigm to create a new one or to participate in the creation of a new one, But to do that, it's not just like, oh, like I don't know if anyone here has watched Sailor Moon. I think in the book I referred to Superman because I thought it would be more well known for more people. But it's
Mhm.
like I'm not just gonna like snap my fingers and all of a sudden I'm wearing a new outfit and I'm ready to go. I'm gonna go like save the world. Like it's a process, and I don't think enough of us are really talking about A, that process exists, but B, how to unpack, unlearn, and work through the process, and to be prepared that we're gonna have to do it over and over and over and over again.
And that's going to be like a lifelong challenge because that paradigm of mononormativity is so dominant.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It's interesting you say that because I just went through that recently. I mean, I've been non-monogamous my whole life, my whole adult
Wow.
life.
Wow.
And I've been specifically consciously polyamorous for the last 20 years, 21, 22 years now. And but I still get whacked upside the head on occasion. And it happened recently with one of my partners, and her decision to start being intimate with somebody else after 2 years of being monogamous with me. And I got comfortable in that monogamy. I got comfortable in that or that sexual monogamy, right? And then all of a sudden, she's now being sexual with other people, and I'm like, oh fuck, this is bringing up so much shit for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've been through this, I don't know how many fucking times,
Yeah.
but it just feels like every single time there's always just a little bit of nuance that's different. There's always just a little bit of something that's happening that's not quite, you know, right. I don't want to use that word, but I can't think of a better one. That comes up and that pops up, and then of course your trauma speaks, and you can see everything, and and it's just like fuck, you're projecting and all sorts of stuff. So it doesn't matter how long you've been doing this.
No.
Mononormativity is so prevalent that it can impact you in so many ways,
Yeah.
in ways that you don't often expect. And I think
Absolutely.
that's really important to acknowledge, is
Yeah.
that there is no finish line here.
Mm-mm.
It's not a what is the word, what do you call it when it's progressive, when some fuck, I can't think. It's not something that you need to finish, or a concept that you need to somehow um
Achieve.
achieve. Thank you. Yeah. And I think it's just great that we can all talk about it, and we can all have community with it, and that we can all acknowledge that there are challenges and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And I think it's the book itself. First of all, it's really accessible material. The way you
Yes.
speak to it is relatable and real and
Funny.
grounded and funny. Yeah. So thank you, first of all, for that kind of approach. I think a
Thank
lot of times when we seek out these sources to help us through something, it can miss the mark and be unrelatable in some ways, and we don't get the full message because of that,
you.
right? It can be
Yeah.
too hard to read. It can be too filled with terminology. It can be daunting in its
Oh yeah.
scope. Even the fact that it's a short book, I think, really lends itself to people. I hope accessing it more often,
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
because
for sure.
we're going
I'm
to
looking
talk
forward
about
to
it.
putting,
We're going to
yeah,
recommend it.
I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to putting it in my library. So I think it'd be
Mhm.
fantastic to
I
have.
so appreciate that. It's like
Mhm.
really like it's super funny because first of all, my friends used to say this in high school, and like friends who've read anything that I wrote is like I think like I talk like I write. So the thing is, if you've seen my videos, I imagine that you can now understand that like me writing a book is a lot like me making a video, but with
Yeah,
a lot more editors. Usually
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
editing myself. I think that was and like even the fact that it's short, as you also probably know, I am not like concise is not my greatest virtue. So that was
Yeah.
actually one of the biggest challenges is
Mm.
making
Well,
keeping it like right like not diving into the H word, right? As I was like how do I choose
mm,
what to leave out was a very challenging experience for me. And
yeah.
I
Yeah.
think also I lost my train of thought, but I'm going to come back to it, I promise. It was about um, also, yeah, not making it too academic because my
Hmm.
writing history, I'm like, my ADHD experience makes it actually very hard for me to A, start and finish a book, and
Hmm.
B, read a book that doesn't take 1,000 years because I read the same sentence multiple times. That's a huge problem.
Mhm.
And then people are like, "Oh, do audiobooks." I'm like, "No, I lose track." People are like, "Do the
Yeah,
dishes while you're doing an audiobook." Like, "No, I can't like I end up my brain is just not there." So the irony is that I read a lot, but in terms of picking up a book and finishing a book, I'm not a huge reader in that way. And so
Mhm.
writing a book, it's like my history with writing was really in academia. I hate academia. It was not great for me. I did okay in it, but it was definitely not a place it was traumatic. The end of my academic experience was like fundamentally just being there was horrible. But what I will say is that as I was writing and as I was doing, because the first part of the book is just getting into definitions so that we can all be on the same page. And I was just like, definitions, intersectionality. I think I maybe even went into the H word. I went into like a bunch of definitions. And I think so. My first editor and my favorite editor is also one of my partners. And so he's an excellent copy editor. And so when he was looking it over and we were debating, like, what do we cut? What do we keep? Because I had a word count. And I was like, you know what? Like, there's only so much, like almost like it almost felt like part of it was like so relatable, but then part of it was so academic and it was like two different books. And
Yeah.
so it was
Mhm.
like really kind of like taking that out of myself because that's not who it's not because I don't believe in like intellectual, integrity and definitions and all of this stuff that's necessary, but I was like, no, I want this to be like as though I'm speaking. Like that's my
Mhm.
voice. And so yeah, thank
Mm,
you.
Right.
Thank you for acknowledging that.
you
It's
definitely did
yeah.
that.
I also, sorry, I have to just comment on this because it was absolutely just one of the most lovely experiences I've ever had reading a book. And I'm not saying that hyperbolically. I mean it because when I was reading the snowsuit story, I was literally like it was getting into a time machine and going back to the 70s when my parents when my
Mhm.
mom and stuff would put snowsuits on me. And I remember the nightmare of that experience, but I also remember just how fun it was,
Yeah.
and
Um,
so that was just a beautiful little anecdotal experience, and I loved it. I thought it was
Thank
amazing.
you. That came out, and I'm not going to say too much about it because, like, I want people if they're hearing, I don't want there's a cliffhanger here, but definitely it's probably one of my favorite things. I I came up with that analogy. I don't know where, but I came up with the analogy. And it was actually when I was giving that original workshop about mononormativity, where
Mhm.
I ended up like literally saying out loud, sometimes you're going to piss the snowsuit. So again, grab the book, Non-Monogamy and Defying a Paradigm, folks. But that
Uh,
I
uh,
literally surprised myself, broke down laughing in the workshop, then
yeah,
also used it a few more times. Like it was just a riot. And I was like, it's the best. It's such I love my later editors were like, Marla, you have too many metaphors. Cut out all of these they were like, you need to take it down. Like, because I just love story. But yeah, I'm
yeah.
so glad that the book was able to be informative for you, but also to bring you back to like a core memory. That's so lovely. Thank
It was
you.
wonderful. It was really wonderful, and it was a beautiful experience to read it. And like Leanne, I loved how short it was. Because
Yeah.
like you guys, I have a hard time getting through books.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially if they're too dense.
Yeah.
I give up. I'm like, fuck, I just can't. This is too hard. I don't want reading to be this challenging, this
Yeah.
hard. And I really enjoyed the pace and I didn't read the hard copy, so it was a little different, but I
Yeah.
still enjoyed the pace of it and stuff. I'm looking forward to actually reading the hard copy.
My publisher is in, I think they're based in Victoria, but
Yeah,
they
Thornapple, right?
yeah, Thornapple. So they're
Yeah.
based in Canada as well. But they, when I was talking to them, because I had people asking me, like, where can you get the book, da da da. And they were saying that you can get it in, like, even if you want it at a local bookstore, if you have a more alternative bookstore, somewhere that
Yeah.
sells books, you can ask and they'll actually, or they can order it
Order
as
it.
well.
Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
if
might do
you
that.
Awesome.
want to not get it on
Yeah,
Amazon, for example.
yeah.
Yes.
Shh.
Yes.
The name. Now that's a name we shall not speak. Yes.
Oh, but it's such a beautiful rainforest. Fuck those guys. Anyway.
Yeah, right.
That's fair. That's
So,
fair. All right.
Marla,
So
let us know how we can get a hold of you, people who are looking to follow you. We talked about how to
Yes.
find the book, and
Amazing.
and you did mention, I think, your TikTok handle
Yeah. So
already.
TikTok,
Mhm.
Instagram, I will be honest, my stories are more fun on Instagram because I'm able to much more like I reshare on TikTok, but I find being able to share to my stories more like easily on Instagram. You'll find probably just like a slightly different version of me there, but the videos I usually cross post them. So at Marla, like polyamory, but Marla is my handle on social media. I also technically am on YouTube. As you can tell, I'm made for long form. I just need to do the thing. Like there's only so much I can do at once. So I am on YouTube as well. I think the thing is though, social media is an absolute dumpster fire right now. And my favorite way to find me is join my newsletter,
Mm,
pollyandmarla.com. We have resources there if you want to like be on like, you know, I have events coming up. If I have offerings or like programs that I'm running, like that's all available there, including like resources to find therapy in your area that's non-monogamy specific, you know, like,
Oh,
so
good.
I think signing up for my newsletter means, and I'm not going to spam you, trust, like babes, there's only so much time I have to write a newsletter. Like once a month is already so much more than I can handle. So will not spam you, promise. Love you, mean it, but that's a great way to stay in touch because that's the thing, right? It's like, it doesn't matter how many followers I have on TikTok. When I make a video that I have a book and a book launch coming out, there's like 400 views. So I'm like, so yeah,
yeah.
those are probably the best ways. So my newsletter and anywhere as at Polya Marla.
And
Awesome.
do you do work with clients only locally in your province, or do you do it
So working as
nationally,
a therapist.
internationally?
Yeah, so therapist I do locally, and like I usually keep my therapy practice separate from. I think of Polya Marla as my education stream.
Mhm.
Hmm.
You know, I'm registered as a therapist in Ontario. Depending, I can sometimes see people in different parts of Canada, depending on the registration stuff.
Hmm.
But I programs that I'm going to be running, including like I have plans for like groups and things that I'm trying to make it so like if I run a workshop, it's international, right? Unless it's physically in a place, right? So workshops
Mhm.
are international, and I'm imagining running more groups coming up that are online so I can work with more international people. But in terms of
Hmm.
actual therapy, that is usually Ontario, but also a little bit Canada specific.
Okay, great.
Awesome.
Awesome. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being with us. And I'm just, yeah, it's been a pleasure. It's really been a
Yeah.
pleasure.
It truly
Yeah,
has. Yeah.
like I said, I've been a fan for a while, and I really enjoy your
Thanks.
content.
Thank you too. This was super, super lovely. Really, really wonderful to have a chance to hang out with you and to meet you. And thank you so much
Yeah.
for like reading the book. That's really, really heartwarming and like such lovely feedback. So yeah, it really means the world because I'm just like, whew, yeah, what a thing to be putting my baby out there.
Congratulations.
Thank you so
Awesome.
Amazing.
much.
Great.
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 Thank you folks so much. It was really lovely to meet you.
And remember,
Choose love.
and keep it kind.
We'd love to hear your comments, questions, or topic suggestions. Don't forget to subscribe.
And you're invited to join our Facebook group, Empowered Poly Relationship Support,
You can reach out to us on our websites, gravemillion.com
leannemillion.com,
and empoweredpoly.ca,
where you can check out our courses
and find more information.
and follow us on our socials.
Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Yeah, you know, nobody's going to listen to this anyway,
Why did we even bother?
right?